Hi, everyone. My name is Anthony Caruso III, and I am the publisher of the Capital Sports Report. I am also the host of the Capital Sports Report Live. This week, we have a special Ladies' Night feature. We have several top alcohol dragster drivers and one former jet dragster driver. Also, I would like to mention that my co host, Susan Wade, is back this week. She writes for several publications from Drag Week, Dragzine to Auto Week to Competition Plus. And today we are joined by, so I will do introductions. So, first, I would like to introduce Rachel Meyer. She's the 2021 Top Alcohol Dragster champion. She defeated Jackie Fricke in Las Vegas to win the championship. She also races for Randy Meyer Racing, which is her family's operation. Next, we have Julie uh, Nataas. Formerly, they called firmly it was Julie Nataas, but they changed it, and she also races for Randy Meyer Racing. She's been in Top Alcohol Dragster for several years. Go ahead, Susan.
Oh yeah, and we're kind of in the company of racing royalty with a couple of our gals as well because we have Madison Payne. She's a third generation racer, and Madison licensed in Duane Shields' dragster in October 2020, and now she's driving it, and she made her debut. It was funny as Atlanta Dragway was going out, Madison was coming in. So she's doing a great job, and actually Auto Week named her among the new faces of the NHRA. So that was pretty cool. So, and then we also have racing royalty from the Northeast. They're across the country from Madison, but Sarah Edwards. Sarah is the well, she's the queen bee now, I think, right? Sarah was the she was the that's the name of her car. I'm not making that up. So at least I'm told that's the name of her car. You can correct me if I'm wrong.
Correct, correct.
And then but she drove the Queen of Diamonds jet dragster. So that's pretty exciting. She's gone faster than I've ever gone. So anyway, we are ready to rock and roll. If you ladies are so excited that you're here, thank you for being here today with us.
Welcome,
Anthony?
everyone.
Thanks for having me on the show.
Yeah, thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
Julie, we're so glad. I'm sorry. We're so glad we got your name right. I think we got it right this time. Nataas, right?
You're good. Yes. I
know
know
what do we
it's not
mispronounce
right either way, so I don't care how you say it. I just have my preference on how I say it.
How do you say it?
Nataas.
That's Nataas. Okay. All right. Sorry, I interrupted. Anthony, go ahead.
The first question goes to Rachel Meyer. You won the championship last season, but you have not started your season yet, but Julie has. Could you talk about what your expectations are for this coming season as the reigning champion?
Um, this season, I actually am going to take a step back and focus on my bracket car and get my two little kids into their junior dragster. So hopefully I'll be out again next year, but this season I'm going to take a little break.
Oh, so we got some breaking news here. We're going to have a new champion this year.
Hopefully. Hopefully.
We got to put in the work first, but we're ready to go for another one.
Got to keep it in the family, right?
Yep.
Your family, Rachel, has won the past 3 top alcohol dragster championships. Megan did it twice back to back, and then you did it last season. Could you talk about as a team for you guys to win 3 in a row?
Honestly, I don't know. It's amazing because my dad has been in this class for I think 30 years, and before Megan won her first championship, we only had won one other championship, and that was with Alan Bradshaw driving. So the fact that Megan was able to do it and then back it up, and then I was able to do it is just amazing. And hopefully Julie does it this year.
We're going for it. We're not stopping now.
But now, I remember I remember Megan telling me that when you guys got a little bit older, when you were teenagers, that your dad was actually racing in other locations sometimes on occasion. You guys would just drive your hauler and set up and do everything. Is that right?
Yeah. Yeah. Where we went to college at, there was actually a racetrack just 10 minutes down the road. So on the weekends, we would go home and get the trailer and like come back and race and then take it back home and then come back up for school. So yeah, me and her have kind of been used to it. And even when we were younger, my mom would be the one to take us to the track sometimes, and the juniors or other racing families would help us out because my dad was off racing the alcohol car somewhere. So yeah, we kind of had to learn how to fend for ourselves a lot, I guess you could say.
That's a good lesson though, right? So
Yeah.
but now you've got a job as an engineer, correct, for a major company. I'm not sure. I can't remember what it is, but I do know you have that. So
Yeah, I'm a new product engineer. It's just for playground equipment. So it's nothing that like intense or special, but it is about kids' safety. So that's kind of a big deal.
well, that's a huge deal. You know, there's don't downplay that. I think that's pretty amazing that you have an engineering degree. So, but
Thank you.
now as you do that, do you want to step up to the pro ranks? I mean, is it maybe a little bit to juggle when you have a full-time job like that?
Yeah, I think it would be really cool to just experience in a top fuel dragster how fast they go. As far as racing one for a whole season, I don't think I would want to. It's costs a lot more money than I have, and I know you have sponsors to help out with a lot of it, but just racing the alcohol car full time this last year took a lot out of me with working full time. And I was also wedding planning too in the middle of it, so I don't think that I could handle going pro, honestly.
Now, Julie, I know you and I have talked a couple of times about this, and you do want to go pro, correct?
Yes, I do.
And I know what you're going to tell me, but I want to hear you say it. What's that going to take?
Sponsorships?
Money, right?
Yeah, that's really all it's going to take right now.
But you've got plenty of good people right there on your own team who know all about giving you pointers, right?
Oh, yes, absolutely. I ask people around me all the time, which I think it's great. That being in the alcohol pits, you can still go over to the nitro pit and ask for help. So,
Well, that's nice. That's
Yeah.
nice. So everybody's pretty willing to help all of you out there.
yes, they've been helping me. So,
That's a good one. And you, in turn, have been actually helping Camry Caruso, if I remember right, right?
well, yes, we did PRI together this year, and not that we like do anything for each other, but we kind of work and give each other ideas and stuff. So I followed her around a little bit at PRI whenever we met over there. So yeah.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So that's kind of nice to be able to kind of pass along a few things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Give each other some new ideas that we haven't thought about. So
Well, she's doing really well. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
For our audience that does not know, Julie is from Norway. Julie, what's it like following in your father's footsteps, who began this racing generation for you?
I mean, it was actually my grandfather who started first, and then my dad followed along. But I mean, I've always looked up to my dad. It's not like I've been here in America and looked up to all like the drivers in the pro ranks, because you couldn't really watch that from over in Norway. So my dad has really been the only person that I've looked up to do all of this. So it's pretty cool. And that I get to do it over here, because that was his dream too. He raced a couple of races over here in Top Fuel like 10 years ago, like ish. And that's the first time I've ever seen NHRA drag racing. So pretty cool.
And you came over to go to school, right? So
yes, I did go to school here. I graduated in 2018. So
Julie, you moved halfway across the globe to be a racer. I'm sure that was very challenging for you to do, but now you're very successful with it. For those that do not know, could you talk more about that?
So when I graduated high school in Norway in 2015, I knew that I wanted to take like a year off from school to like figure out what I wanted to do. And my family and I have always come over to California for a vacation since I was a little kid. So I was like, well, a year in California might not be that bad. So I started school and I just never left. Pretty much.
Now that's pretty amazing. Now, Madison, you were kind of right there. You were born in the cradle of drag racing, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you grew up in Southern California, correct? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And for those who don't know, Madison is the daughter of Shelly Anderson Payne and Jay Payne, and the granddaughter of Brad Anderson. That's a pretty big. So you're a legacy racer at this point, right? So.
Yeah, it's really exciting. I mean, my family, all we know is drag racing. My dad, of course, he has a business, but I mean, we really don't even know that much about it. His favorite thing in the world is racing. So we let him do what he needs to do during the week, but mostly all we talk about when we're at home is just racing when we're not at the track.
So what would you like to talk about at the dinner table if we're drag racing?
Oh my gosh, I don't know. I talk a lot. So yeah, I let my parents do most of the talking, and then I realized that I'm not talking enough, and then it all just spouts out of me. Julie and Rachel know this. When I see them, I just kind of blabber on for way too long.
I think I have the same problem. So. But I got to tell you, this makes me feel really old, but I actually covered your mom when she was racing. So in my early days in the NHRA, I covered your mom. So she was quite a racer. And I think what's really interesting is the landscape has really changed, I think, since she was there, because she got roused by the guys a little bit.
There she was.
What's that?
She just scurried past me.
Oh, I missed her in the mirror there or something. I don't know where. Anyway. But you'll tell her hi. So
I will.
But yeah, I mean, I think the landscape has changed a lot since she raced. You know, I think for women, I mean, you haven't gotten roused by the boys like she did, right?
No, I haven't at all. But I think that made her a lot tougher, and that kind of made her instill in my brother and I just to not let what people say bother you. So it didn't work out for her in the sense she had to put up with that stuff, but we don't. But if we do, we're well prepared because of her.
Yeah, absolutely. She was tough. I mean, she was a tough cookie. I like listening to her because she didn't hold back on things. I thought that was really fun. I thought she was a real kick. But now you mentioned your brother. That's Toby, right?
Yes.
Yeah. When he's a little bit younger than you, correct?
Yep. He's 17.
17, and you're all of 20, is that right?
Yep, 20.
Oh my goodness, Anthony, what were we doing at age 20? I don't know.
That was like 20 years ago for me almost.
Yeah, you know, I got to tell you, I got to kind of interrupt a little bit here because Anthony probably doesn't want to brag about himself, but tomorrow is a big day for Anthony. It is a big anniversary for you, Anthony. You want to tell everybody what you're doing?
So I revealed this to Susan earlier today, but tomorrow is actually the 15-year anniversary of my publication being launched.
Oh, congratulations.
Congrats.
Thank you.
If we were all together, we could have a cake. You know? Well, maybe we could all have a Girl Scout cookie in your honor or something like that. You know?
Thank you.
But anyway, so I think you wanted to ask Madison something, Anthony, and I keep interrupting.
Correct. Madison, you are working with Duane Shields and his Muscle Milk operation. Last year, you made your top Alcohol Dragster debut. What's it like being with Duane Shields' team?
It's really good. I've known Duane my whole life, and him and my father both shared the Peak sponsorship. So Duane was always around. He was always one pit over. So I've always known him really well, and his family and his team. So nothing's pretty much changed except for I'm in his car now, except for him being in the car all the time.
Being that you have worked with him for so long, you've known him for so long, is it easier to work with him, or is it more difficult because you're a young driver and maybe you may be more excited to do things, and he's a veteran driver, and he's so maybe set in his ways of how he does things?
I think it's easier just because Duane knows me a lot better than most people do. But Duane's also a really patient person. So it works out in my favor because I can get to be annoying and he's used to it. So he's very patient.
What's your plan for this season?
This season, we have a lot of
I
stuff.
know you just. Sorry, Julie. I know she just beat you in Pomona 2 weeks ago.
No, Julie lets me win.
Yeah.
She feels bad. I haven't won a race, so she just gives them to me.
Maddie didn't even see it. She came up and congratulated me. I'm like, what do you mean? Did you not?
Yeah, I didn't even know she red lit. And the shutdown is so short in Pomona. I was so focused on getting my shoots out. I didn't even look for the win light because I was like, oh, there's Julie. And I went over to her and I was like, oh, now we're even. Ha ha ha. Like, good luck the rest of the week. And I walked away and they gave me the time slip and I felt so horrible. I walked right back over to her and I was like, I'm so sorry, Julie. I genuinely thought you won.
I was just so confused when she said it. I was like, wait, what? And then
That's funny.
What's your plan for this season, Madison?
This season, I'm going to be doing Super Comp full time. And then I'm going to be doing a couple races in Duane's car. And then we'll be adding races as we go, depending on the schedule and if we find more sponsorship. But
Okay.
right now, my main focus is for my grandpa, because I know he's listening right now. We're gonna get the Top Sportsman car out, and we've just been waiting on one part, and it's supposed to come this week. So once we get that, we're gonna start testing.
What's it like juggling working for Brad Anderson Enterprises and racing, and seeing everything else in that you do?
I'm pretty much a fake employee for Brad Anderson Enterprises. I am. We joke that I'm vice president, but when I'm home, I go in like 3 days a week, but I get to take as much time as I need off for racing. So I'm just a pop-in girl. I don't think anyone else gets to say that over there.
So Brad, if you're listening, is she still employed?
Yeah. The sign on my desk says vice president, so I think I'm doing a pretty good job just overseeing things.
Maybe you're the president of Vice. I don't know. Maybe that's another title. Now you talked about Duane being patient. I'll tell you who's been patient is Sarah. She's had to wait for everybody else to talk. So
all good.
But Sarah, we've been asking the others if they'd like to go step up to the pros, and I think for you, you're kind of going backwards in the sense of you're going slower. You're going from a 300-mile-an-hour jet dragster back to Super Comp this year. Is that correct?
Yeah. So the plan is to get is to run Top Dragster in the car that I started bracket racing with like almost 10 years ago, which is kind of crazy to say.
I know you're so young. But I don't know if the others have ever experienced it, but I can't imagine what that's like driving a jet dragster. Can you how do you explain that to people like us who have never experienced that?
I feel like the jet car was very sensationless to me because it was all thrust driven. So I don't come from a racing family. I never raced before I got into my Super Comp car that I really only ran Top Dragster. And my favorite part of racing was when I left the line and you felt the launch, you felt the tires like grip the track. And then when I got into the jet car and even my first pass at going 300 miles an hour, they came running to the car. They're like, oh my God, you just went 300 miles an hour. And I'm like, isn't that what you asked me to do? It was very sensationless. So driving the Top Dragster car, you felt everything at the line. And then in the jet car, I felt everything at the finish line when I pulled the chutes. It was like 0 to 300 was sensationless, but 300 to 5 miles an hour was like the ride of your life because you're going down a track that's completely prepped and ready for you to go 300. But as you ladies know, sometimes the shutdown areas can get real sketchy, especially when you're match racing and you're not on an NHRA track or a track that is, prepped as well as, say, like Summit Motorsports Park or something like that, where shutdowns, they narrow in, there's guardrails, there's different obstacles. And that to me was my favorite part of the entire run, was the shutdown area, because it was more challenging.
That's really interesting. Go ahead, Anthony. Sorry.
Sarah, for our audience, some might not know this, but I do know this because I've known you for several years. You tell me in an interview in 2017 that when I talked to you for the very first time, that your father heard a commercial about the Night of Thrills in Englishtown, New Jersey, Old Bridge Township Raceway Park in Englishtown, New Jersey. Your father brought you to that event. You saw a car called the Queen of Diamonds, and you said, one day I'm going to drive that car. And then several years later, you made that dream come true.
Very true. My dad, I was in like middle school at the time, and he heard an ad on the radio for Raceway Park's Night of Thrills event. And it was in August, I want to say, back then. Then it got moved to July. And I'm an only child. So my mom, my dad, and I, and my neighbors that are boys that I grew up with, like brothers, we all got in the car and we went down on a Wednesday night. And there was monster trucks and jet cars and everything else you can imagine. And I left and I was just completely hooked on drag racing. And like you said, I saw the Queen of Diamonds. I met Jesse Harris, who was driving it at the time. And I left that night and I was like, that's what I want to do one day.
But it didn't just happen overnight. How did you make that connection?
So after that event, we kept going back. It started to become like a tradition. We'd go every summer to the Night of Thrills. Then it expanded to the national event at Raceway Park. And then we had gone out to Maple Grove to the national event. And my parents had said, would you ever want to come back here? And I was like, well, we've kind of seen it all. It's kind of the same thing that just picks up and goes to a different town. Honestly, like, I want to drive if I'm going to come back here. So the deal was I had to graduate high school with good grades and good driving record and all that. And then I attended. So I did. And I graduated in June of 2010. And the July of that year, I went to Frank Hawley's drag racing school. They had come up to the Northeast and they'd come back to Maple Grove. And that's where I got my license for Super Comp. And we bought a dragster that ran Super Comp and Top Dragster, but we never ran it as Super Comp. I raced at one track for 4 years, Alcohol Dragway in New Jersey, because I'm from Connecticut and we don't have any drag strips here. And I learned what bracket racing was in 4 years. And then I got the opportunity from Al Hanna of Hanna Motorsports. He had reached out to me on Facebook and asked if I'd be interested in drag diamonds. And I said yes. So I drove that car for 3 years, 3 seasons.
But before you actually got the opportunity, you told me previously that you met Ken Hall, and that's how that whole opportunity came about for you.
So yeah, I got the message in October of 2015, but I'd gone out to Diesel Nationals at Raceway Park in New Jersey that September. And I had gone up and I met Ken Hall, and I got to if you know Ken, he's an extremely bubbly and welcoming person. And he kind of was like showing me around, and we were talking, and I had said that, I saw this when I was in middle school. And this is kind of what ignited my passion for drag racing. And I guess somehow that just word got back to Al and it snowballed. And by Halloween, I was in the car.
That's pretty amazing. I've learned so much from each one of you tonight. I know some of us have talked and some of us have never talked. So it's just awesome to meet the ones I've never met. And but now what I'd like to do is, if it's okay with you, Anthony, maybe we can ask a few questions and then get everybody's take on the same question. And One thing that I was talking to Don O'Neill, our friend, I'm sure we all know Don O'Neill, and he was saying that he really is irritated when we in the media say sportsman. So I'll start with Rachel, and then we'll go to Julie, and same order, Madison, and then Sarah. And I'd kind of like to know, like, what what your take is on that. Should we be saying Lucas Oil's series racers as opposed to sportsman? Is sportsman a not a dirty word, but is that a word you guys don't like, or do you think it's disrespectful? He does, but what do you think, Rachel?
Rachel, you're muted.
Rachel? We're going to start with Julie. We'll come back to Rachel in a minute here. What do you think, Julie?
So I never even thought about it until I saw Dawn's post about it. And I guess I agree with him, but at the same time, I never thought about it. Because, I mean, they call the Camping World series, like, Camping World drivers. So, yes, maybe they should be calling us the Lucas Oil Drag Racing Series racers, but I haven't thought about it until I seen him complain about it, but I totally get it.
Yeah, how about you, Madison?
I really like Dawn. He's a great guy, but honestly, I don't think it matters. And I'm proud to be a sportsman racer, so I don't really think it matters what we're called.
And Sarah, what do you think?
I kind of agree with both Julie and Madison. I really never thought of it or looked at it that way. And for me, it doesn't matter to me what they call me. As long as I can go drag racing and have a good time, you can call me whatever you want.
Yeah, he kind of, I kind of felt bad because I thought he had a point, and maybe it's not a big deal, but I think it taught me to, maybe I wasn't disrespectful in the first place, but to be more respectful. Yay, we got Rachel back.
Sorry, I lost my mic connection somehow.
Oh, we're glad you're back. So, did you hear the question that we were kicking around about sports?
The start of the sportsman part, yeah.
Yeah, did you? What do you think? Don O'Neill was telling me that, hey, you shouldn't call us sportsmen. You should call us Lucas Oil Series drivers. Does that matter to you? How do you feel about that?
I guess, I don't know. I've never really thought about it too much. I guess I've always just been used to everyone below the pros being called the sportsman racers. But we are a part of the Lucas Oil Drag Racing Series. So I guess to me, it doesn't matter a whole lot, I guess.
Well, I think he had a really good point that you're running a business. These are businesses for you. You're not funning around. I mean, it's actually, you're trying to go out and make money. You're trying to get sponsors, and you have to handle that as a business. And I think he just want to make sure everybody understood that. I think so. I do. I'm a believer now. But Anthony,
yeah.
Go ahead.
Speaking of sportsman racing, it does not receive a lot of airtime on FS1. They just do the pros. Sometimes you get pushed off to FS2. But I know, Rachel, last year at the Houston race, you were very upset. You made a Facebook post, and I actually posted about it. You were not very happy with the NHRA pushing the sportsman people off to go to the pros. So what do you guys think about that? Do you think that you guys should get your own TV show, more airtime on FS1 or Fox? Go ahead, Rachel.
Yeah, that weekend I was just really upset. But we do kind of get used to being pushed back if the pros, they're on live TV. So when they have to run, they have to run. And that's understandable. And we all know that because that's what NHRA says brings in a lot of the viewers. It would be really nice if they could show a lot more of the sportsman racing rather than just the finals of all the classes. And we're lucky that our class gets more airtime. But I know a lot of sportsman guys who travel the whole series, they spend a lot of money and they deserve the airtime. They have sponsors too that they need to please. And you either have to make to the finals to get that airtime or I guess promote yourself really good.
Yeah, Julie.
Well, I don't think there was a lot of sportsman racers that was happy after Houston, but I agree with Rachel on the TV time. I mean, we could definitely have some more. There are other sportsman classes who get less time than us, but yeah, pretty much the same as Rachel on this.
Madison?
I agree. I was really upset at Houston. I had my super comp car there, and it was on the way when they canceled it. And then I tried to get into Top Dragster because there were available spots, and NHRA said no because it was after Monday the cutoff, even though they cut super comp and a bunch of other classes after Monday the cutoff. I think, kind of relating to Don O'Neill's point about the sportsman racers, I think the biggest thing is respect. And I know the fans like the fuel cars, but they still need the sportsman racers to fill up time. And they're paying the pros to be there. It's the sportsmen that are paying themselves to be there. We're giving NHRA a lot of money. And if anything happens, we're the first to be pushed or to lose a session. And we keep going out there and getting less and less. And another thing is, how are we supposed to keep spending our money when we can't provide that much to sponsors because we get no airtime and there's so many things that we can lose?
Go ahead, Sarah.
I mean, I think showing the other classes other than just the pros and showing the sportsmen, it shows kind of the diversity and the variety that drag racing has to offer. And if you're trying to entice new generations and just even kids in technical schools or something like that, if you're trying to grow your sport, you're kind of shooting yourself in the foot if you're not putting it out on a platform where people can get, excited about it or even just interested, or maybe they didn't know about a certain class and they don't have a chance to get to a racetrack, where if you can kind of showcase that, you're just overall helping grow the sport. And to Madison's point is, they pay to be there and they help build these events, and they just don't get the time that they should.
What?
Go ahead.
What do you think they would have to change to like create their own TV show or like integrate you guys more in social media? If you look at like their Instagram page, it's all like Pro Stock and Funny Car and Top Fuel right now, because that's the three main classes before we get to Gainesville who competes, and then they'll include Pro Stock, but like they rarely promote you guys at all. So what do you guys think that the NHRA has to do to promote you guys more? Go ahead, Rachel.
Well, I know that my sister kind of did a really good job at promoting herself, and I feel like then NHRA did kind of promote her a little bit too. I feel like there were a lot of fans who knew who she was, even though she wasn't a pro racer. And so I don't know, maybe it boils down to how well you promote yourself to the sport to get fans interested in you and more interested in your class.
Julie?
I think Rachel has a great point there. I feel like there's a lot of sportsman racers who don't really even promote themselves, but NHRA could probably do some more with the sportsman racers. I don't know if that's including us in the big NHRA page or creating their own, like Lucas Oil or, the sportsman's racer Instagram. I don't know. On the side, I don't know. I haven't thought about that one either, because I feel like I'm also out there promoting myself. So I'm like, yeah.
Madison?
I think it kind of boils down to the fans are only as smart as you make them. And if they're only talking about the pros, that's all the fans are going to want to watch. But I agree with Rachel and Julie's points.
So you have to do your own self-promoting to get recognized by them, sadly, in this generation. That's what you guys seem to be hinting
Not
at.
necessarily from NHRA, but for the fans.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
Sarah, you're really good at that. You're a really good marketer. I don't know
Thank you.
what you learned and where you learned it, but I think you're really good at that.
Thank you. I took a lot of pride, especially, with the Queen of Diamonds and having the opportunity to drive a car that was kind of so iconic in its time, I just felt we had to do something with it, and we had to make sure everybody knew what the Queen of Diamonds was, not just necessarily me as a driver at the time, but just the car in and of itself, because I was so, starstruck by the car. So that was really important to me. And I felt that was something that I really brought to Hannah Motorsports at the time, was just getting involved on social and getting people involved. And then I agree to Rachel and Julie and Madison. It really does fall on you as a person, is how much you want to put yourself out there. And some people are into it and some people aren't. But I think if you can just take it and run with it and do, so many different things and say yes to speaking engagements and going, I was big on going into schools, and the NHRA has the launch program and the yes program, and maybe they need to be, integrate that more with their social media and getting out there with the younger generation. And that's all, it's all important, is just really telling your story and being relatable and being human. And I kind of remember what Wes Buck had said a while ago, watching one of his shows, is they don't put cars on the cover, they put people on the cover, because that's what you're going to remember and have a relationship with. And that's just something that I kind of took and ran and flew by the seat of my pants on trying to market myself.
But I think you've got a great point, is that I don't think I mean, it's a good thing I'm not writing about technical stuff, because I couldn't identify hardly any parts of a car. But I don't have to, because I write about people. And I think that's the big thing. And I had a discussion at Pomona with Mike Salinas, and he's big in promoting. He's sponsoring like 10 to 15 junior dragster drivers and guys and gals both. And he really wants to promote. And he was saying what they ought to do is at least get an autograph session and get all the Lucas Oil Series racers out there signing autographs and meeting the people. And once people know you, I think they start rooting for you. They feel like they're invested in you, right?
And that was something I kind of felt about, like, we were just match racing. So we would go to a track and it would be against something like that. But it was, what I would always stress is, whether they love you or hate you, you still want them to know your name, and to create, especially in match racing, to create that rivalry, to me was something that it was like, why aren't more people doing this? Why, aren't tracks who are promoting these events, really pairing it up, like Queen of Diamonds versus the Beast from the East? Like, you could create such a storyline there. And whoever the fans choose to go for, if they love you or hate you, they still know your name, and they still are, keeping their eye on you.
Well, I don't think anybody would hate any of y'all, first of all. but I think you also, and you didn't say it, but you're talking about the Beast from the East, and cars had names back when they match raced, and back in the heyday of drag racing, cars had names.
Mm-hmm.
And now they don't have names, and those some of those names are iconic, and I think that's what stirs things up and that's missing now. Don't you? I mean, Don Garlitz said, I always put Don Garlitz bigger than my sponsor, something, because I wanted people to know who I was, but that's a big deal too, I think. Don't you think, Anthony?
Yes, I agree. Yes. Today, like back in the day, you had like Jungle Jim, so his funny car. You had USA One. So today, you don't really have that. So, how would you ladies think that you guys can promote your vehicles to the fans today?
I don't know. I felt like mine, I guess, could have been from having NTK as the title sponsor. Just people remember what the car looks like, I guess.
Yeah, kind of pushing your title sponsors along with your own name.
Yeah, it is. It's like me, OTG Dragster, but before that, which I don't really think a lot of people know this here in the States, is that my family were known for having the Batmobile car. And that's what we had for years and years until I stopped racing in Europe. But that was because we didn't have OTG, like the OTG car, the OTG dragster, so we could actually like name it something different. I don't feel like I can name my dragster and be like, oh, it's Julie Nataas in the Batmobile.
It's OMG, it's OTG.
It's a little different today.
Well, I think you guys have been stuck in that. That's the way the landscape is now. I mean, Madison, I don't know if you've ever had this discussion with your folks, but it's a different era. And then the people, nobody does that. So if you went out and did that, would that be weird?
I don't think it'd be weird, but I think back when my family was racing, it was a lot, I think a lot more sponsors wanted to be incorporated into the sport than are now. But the sponsors not only helped racers financially, but they also wanted to promote racers themselves, because promoting racers was promoting their companies. And I think nowadays, even if you get a great sponsor and you're lucky to have one, they still might not promote you the way that they would back in the day.
Huh. A little bit of a disconnect there then. How do you handle that in the boardroom? I mean, when you're negotiating with them, or should there be more talk about how both sides can get together and improve that?
I think nowadays it's more about promoting the company, which makes total sense, because if they're sponsoring you, that's what you're supposed to do. But a lot of sponsors already have a platform. So if they promote you on that platform, it not only helps you, but their business. And people might come out to the races to see that car and you, because they've seen it through that company's promotion.
Very, very true. You guys have deal with this. You guys likely have dealt with this. I mean, sponsorship. Sponsorship is so hard today. Years ago, it used to be you had sponsorship for a long time. Like Madison, your father had Peak for a long time. You had Terry McMillan had Amelie for a long time. You had John Forrest with Castro for a very long time. But today, you can have a sponsorship for 1 year, and then they'll be gone the next. How do you guys, as the drivers and your family, Rachel's and Julie's, Randy Meyer Racing, but Madison, you would Duane Shields and Sarah with your team. How do you guys deal with the sponsorship aspect when things can change so quick today, and being that it's so tough to find sponsorship? Rachel?
Well, I know that my dad's built up real good relationships with a lot of our, not necessarily like title sponsors, but sponsors that still help us out, like Lucas Oil and Gunk. And since he's built those relationships up throughout the year, I feel like it's just a mutual respect that we have for each other. But my sister honestly handles a lot more of how the sponsorship goes on than I do, considering last year was my first year actually racing with a sponsor. So I don't know. I know that they can pull out on you pretty quick, especially in today's economy and how things seem to be going lately.
Yeah, the last couple of years has been rough for companies, which we as racers can see. And to make sure that they stay, we've got to make sure that we have a great relationship with them, like we do have with our sponsors for Randy Meyer Racing. We also have to make sure that we actually deliver what they ask for through the year. And if we don't, then it might be gone or they might not renew. So,
Madison?
I agree with Julie. I think the biggest thing is just living up to what you tell your sponsors you're going to do. But I haven't had to deal with it as much as they have, probably because Duane set up the Muscle Milk deal before I signed on to drive for him. So I really haven't had to be that hands-on when it comes to sponsorships.
Sarah?
I have to agree with Rachel with the mutual respect and just over time, building relationships with people, because we do go through such, economic like ups and downs, and you don't know, what's going on next, especially the last 2 years or a couple of years or so. But if you have a foundation that's built on respect, that if maybe they don't have the money this year, but you've delivered on your promises before and you kind of have a good track run with them, it kind of just keeps the door open to anything that, could come down the pipeline in the future. And it's better to not burn any bridges, I feel, than, and walk away kind of respectfully if something does go wrong, because you never know where you're going to meet down the road. So just kind of keeping that relationship open and respectful is key.
Well, I kind of think there are two thoughts that just kind of popped up as I was listening to y'all. I think it's, first of all, I think companies who decided not to do anything during the pandemic actually hurt themselves. It's the people who stayed with the public and kept their name out there, who would have benefited more than the ones who said, oh, we don't have any money now, we can't do this or we can't do that. It's the ones who stayed out there in front of the public, I think, who were the smarter ones. But working with, I was listening to Madison and Julie, and I was thinking how the sponsors, you talk about delivering what they want. They don't always want exposure. They might want business to business. They might want something else. Have you found that to be true, all of you, that they don't necessarily want what you think? You have to find out what they want before you assume this is what they want, the name on the car or whatever, Do they want a lot of different things sometimes?
Yes, they do. It depends on the company and what they do or what they deliver, or what kind of company it is. But today, it's not really about the exposure you get on the racetrack, going down the racetrack, or being on TV, which yes is great for them. But I see a lot today's sponsorship is a lot of business to business.
A lot of personal appearances. Rachel, do you have to do that and try to squeeze that in with your job? And
well, with NGK, I know that they just wanted us to post like X amount a month to get their name out on our social media pages, and to deliver to them like your insights and your likes and all that, showing how you're helping them grow their name in a way.
And Sarah and Madison, what do you see? Well, I mean, are there some unusual things that people wouldn't know about what sponsors want out there?
I think every sponsor kind of varies, depending on their brand and their product, and based on that, it's what they want from you. So it's kind of across the board with their wants and wishes and what you have to provide to them.
Madison, is that hard sorting all that out, or do they make it pretty clear what they want?
No, I think that the sponsors, from my experience, make it pretty clear on what they want. They want a shout out in a speech or an interview, or how big, they get to pick the renderings for the car and stuff, but it's all mapped out pretty easily, and what they expect.
Anthony?
Sorry about that. With the impressions, I'm sure you have like on Facebook and Twitter and everything, you have the metrics to provide to them on that. But do you find sometimes that may be more difficult to reach their goals, or is it easy to reach their goals for the sponsorship that they're seeking? Rachel?
As far as like the impressions or like all those, they never gave us a set number that they wanted. Okay. I think they just wanted to see how everything was going.
Okay.
Yeah, I haven't been given any numbers beforehand either, or on how they want to do on social. So
same. I feel like as far as you like kind of provide your reach in a general sense, but I've never been asked like specifically for numbers.
Okay. Madison, have you?
No, I haven't, and I'm happy about that, because I don't think I'm very good at social media, and I don't like it very much. So I'm happy that they don't expect that of me.
Wow.
You answered.
Go ahead. Go ahead, Susie.
No, you answered my question because I was going to ask this because you're so young. Is this a natural thing for you, social media? And that's nice, kind of nice for someone my age to know that at 20 you're not into that as much either. I mean, I know Leah Pruitt told me one time just the other day that she said I have the most following on social media of any of the pros, but she said it's not because I want to do it so much, but I kind of have to do it. She learned many years ago that you kind of have to work that whether you like it or you maybe don't feel like getting on a certain day, but you kind of have to do it. So you feel a little bit of a slave to social media now that it's out there? Anybody?
I do.
I don't know. I like it, so I'm fine. And I write down all this stuff, analytics, I can't say statistics, from social media, after every race and every month, so that I have it ready, because I know sometimes they will ask for it before we start a relationship or before I start a relationship with a company. So I always have it on hand if I need it, but I like social media.
Yeah, Julie doesn't count because she's good at social media. So it doesn't count.
Well, it's funny. I remember back in the day talking to Melanie Troxel about marketing and promoting yourself. And she said, oh my gosh, I know how to work on a car. I know how to drive a car. I know how to do a lot of things, but now I got to promote myself on top of it. It just seems so overwhelming for you drivers. People think, oh, they get in the car and they drive down the track for 3 to 5 seconds or whatever it is, 6 seconds or whatever you go. And it's like, there's a lot more to it than that. But I mean, she felt overwhelmed at times. Does this overwhelm you guys at some point? Rachel, yeah?
It overwhelms me a lot.
Do you just...
Oh, sorry.
No, I was just going to ask you, just let your sister do it then for you. She likes it.
I asked her a few times and she said no.
Julie, I'm sorry I interrupted you.
Sometimes it can be a lot, but I feel like it's a great place where where you can decide what you put out and what you want your fans to see, and they can actually learn more about you. Like we talked about earlier, you want a face to the person that is sitting in the car. Social media to me is one of those places where I can show people who I am outside of the race car, although I mostly post from the races, but I feel like you get more of a personality, and companies can see that and fans can see that. So I like it.
I like the idea of controlling your own message. That's kind of a cool thing, right?
Yeah.
So Madison, for you, it's more of I don't want to say necessary evil, but because it's not evil, but it's like, it kind of can be, right?
Yeah, I like social media. I like seeing what my friends are doing and liking their posts and stuff like that. But for myself, I don't like taking pictures. And all the pictures I have in my camera roll, I find funny, but I don't think Instagram would. So I can't post most of the photos in my camera roll. I have nothing to post. I just made my first post in a year. I wanted to delete it 2 minutes after I posted it. So yeah, I'm not like Julie. Posting all these pictures and they all look high quality. Mine are blurry and I have red eye and yeah.
I don't really believe you, Maddie, but it's okay.
Okay, Julie, you can go look at mine. It's painful.
So you're like me, you're a lurker. You're more of a lurker. You like to look at other people's, but you don't want to contribute that.
Yes, stuff. Exactly. I'll support other people on Instagram. I'm proud of you that you're confident to post that picture, and good for you, but not me. No, I want to keep them all to myself. I don't want people to know my personality.
No, that's actually kind of refreshing, to tell you the truth. But Sarah, what about you? Overwhelming?
I enjoyed it, when you're in the thick of it and you're in the thick of a season and you have fresh new content. It's more off season and last couple of years that was kind of in limbo with what I'm doing and just life, that it's what do I post? I hate that.
Speaking of social media, I wanted to ask you ladies this question. Do you feel like it's better to just have one spot, one social media platform that you just pump all your effort into, like say a Facebook or Instagram or a Twitter, or you feel like the more channels the better, but then it takes up more time to oversee everything? What do you guys say, Rachel?
Well, just because I took a little bit of my sister's classes, I think it's good to have multiple platforms. She even showed me that like even sending out emails to fans helps, and getting on LinkedIn helps a lot too. It doesn't just have to be like Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, although those seem to be the more common ones.
Yeah, I think you should have different ones too. Maybe not all of them out there, but you know, pick a couple at least. Because I know for my social medias, like I said, I write down all my analytics. I know that I have different fans on different social media platforms, so I reach a lot bigger audience, but a couple different ones based on where or what kind of social media they use.
Madison? I know you don't really do much social media.
I use Instagram for my friends and for racing, but Facebook I use pretty much just for racing and to reach out to talk to other racers and stuff like that, because Facebook's scary. There are a lot of people out there on Facebook, so I don't do more personal content on Facebook. It's mostly just racing, but it's worked out better for me.
Sarah?
I think having, 2 or 3 platforms gives a good variety of your different like demographics to reach. I feel like, just from personal experience, Facebook, for some reason, I have a bigger reach on than Instagram. And overall, it just gives you a bigger, better number to go to a company with.
Good, Susan.
Oh, I was just thinking about in I think it was at the end of the 2018 season, in pro stock, Tanner Gray wins the championship. He's like this young kid. He's still a teenager, and then he said, "I don't want to do this anymore." So, but I want to make sure that there's going to be young people still, in the sport. So, does that worry you? That it's good to be the up and coming ones and the face of the the new wave or whatever, but does it worry you that it's still a bunch of older people out there, that the Tanner Grays are gone? Rachel, what do you think? Have you thought about it at all?
I feel like in bracket racing, like big money bracket racing, I feel like a lot of younger kids are veering towards those kind of classes. I feel like some of them still get into NHRA, but I feel like they see a different kind of benefit going big money bracket racing.
And is it just money?
Money, maybe like the environment out there. And I also know it's pretty nice because like every race of theirs is aired on YouTube for free, so you could always watch it. I don't know. I've never been to one. I just watch them sometimes. But I feel like you see a lot of younger kids out there.
Interesting. Julie, what do you think?
I'm not really worried. I feel like the young people do want to get into the pro ranks too. Like Rachel said, there's obviously the people, or I don't know if they want to or not, but that might want to go to the big money races instead and do the bracket races. But I don't think, I'm not worried that we're not going to have any young people in the pro ranks.
Kenny Bernstein said the pipeline always gets filled, so you think that'll be true?
The what?
The pipeline always gets filled.
Sure.
And there's always somebody coming up to replace the ones who are going out the door. There's always somebody new coming in, So Anthony, I'm sorry. I think you wanted to say something. I interrupted you again.
Oh no, I didn't know if you were going to ask Madison and Sarah the same thing.
Oh yeah. Go ahead.
I don't think that's something we have to worry about because, like, a lot of my friends at the races are just around my age, and they've either been in the sportsman categories longer than me in super gas, super comp, stock, all those classes, or they're just getting into it and learning. But for Rachel's point about bracket racing, I think a lot of kids are veering towards bracket racing because it's fun. You don't have to worry about things in the sense of getting pushed or other people. Like, those sportsman cars, the dragsters and the door cars, they're there to race. Everyone's on the same level and everyone is just there to enjoy racing and maybe make real money.
Sure.
I kind of feel like drag racing is such a family-oriented sport that whether you're coming up through juniors or sportsman category, like you said with Kenny Bernstein, like the pipeline will get filled because someone is gonna venture out and wanna, maybe head towards the pro ranks or something like that. But just on a foundation of drag racing being so family-oriented, I feel that you'll have generations upon generation racers, kind of like all of you on tonight.
I would like to touch on that family aspect. Every time I go to a national event, everyone says to me that when I'm in the media role, that you're family. You want something to drink, you want something to eat, it's there for you. Go get it. Could you talk about that family aspect that the racers have with one another? Like I remember talking to Taylor Iaconio, Jackie Fricke's niece, and she said, "Well, all I have is my friends at the drag strip. I don't really have friends at home because they're my friends, and I get to interact with them on the road all the time." So, could you talk about like that, where you guys have, for those that interact with everyone, like Madison, Julie, and Rachel, you guys have built this family friendship on the road that you guys connect with, and then you guys, when you're away, you're still in touch with one another, but you get to like be around one another more than just like regular people at home.
I mean, yeah, I 100% agree. I feel like in our class, there's a lot of teams who are willing to help everyone out. Like I remember in Vegas, like Duane's car, I think that they went to start it in the pits and like it wasn't starting, and like Cam came and ran over and asked us to like help him out, my dad to help him out, and like we teamed up with Jackie's team for Halloween, even though we were both battling it out for the championship.
The
So I feel like
boxers, I
you
remember
have to
that.
have, yeah, I feel like you have to be able to have fun and to help people out or have people that will help you out in order to love the class and want to stay in it.
Julie?
I agree with Rachel. I feel like we're all friends out there, and some we even call family, which I'm glad because my family is in Norway, so I feel like I kind of got a second family out here at the races. And like Rachel said, if one team needs help, we'll be there to help them. It's not like we're going to leave them out there because now we can get a buy because they can't start the car. So we're always going to help each other and be friends out there.
I remember, I think it was last year, before I get to Madison and Sarah, I would like to touch on this. I think it was Sean Cowie, I believe it was, or Joey Severance. They needed an engine, and one of them gave it to the engine to the other person. Said, "You go, you need it. You go take it." And you raced that final round, and I remember that.
Yeah, that was, I think that Megan was in the chase for the championship, and so was Cowie, and I think Joey blew his motor. Or was it you, Julie? I don't remember.
No, it was Megan. It was for Megan's
was.
championship, and I think it was a race she had to win, just like you in Vegas.
It was in Vegas.
Yeah, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was in Vegas, the final. And
Yeah,
if Joey
yes.
Joey beat Megan, it would have gone on to Pomona.
Mm-hmm.
That's right. Yeah.
Sarah, do you see a lot of that? Because in the Jet, it's a whole different world over there. I mean, you've spent some time in the Lucas Oil Series, but for the most part, you've spent more time where you're kind of on your own a little bit, aren't you? With the Jet car?
You're on your own, again, to a certain degree. If there is somebody else there in a jet car, because there were races we would go to and we would be the only, hired jet dragster. But if there was another jet team there, 100% you're helping each other out. But I really saw it firsthand, bracket racing at ACO, us not knowing anything, coming into it. Everybody was beyond generous to us, and if something broke or if we didn't understand something, before we could even ask, somebody would show up in our pit and be offering to help. And it was really refreshing, because kind of where we are in Connecticut, we're like 45 minutes north of New York City, so it's a very hustle bustle pace, and people don't even hold the door for you around here. And then when we got out to Jersey and the racetrack, and everybody who you don't know was so welcoming and friendly and helpful, that was something that we'll never forget, and is just always very refreshing to kind of reflect on.
That's so nice to hear these stories, because I remember, it was when the Force girls were real little. I mean, like grade school age, maybe junior high or whatever, middle school. Their dad was racing against Ron Capps in the final round. It was at Seattle, and there was a pan of nuts and bolts and stuff sitting there, and somebody on the crew went by and bumped it or whatever. And so I think John ended up winning the race, and he said, but I looked over there and there's my daughter picking up all the bolts for Ron Capps and putting all of his stuff back to, she said, that's who I'm racing in the final. I got my own daughters over there picking up stuff for him so he could get his car put back together. So I thought that was kind of funny. But yeah, there are lots of, I don't know if any other sports do that. I mean, maybe, you saw it in the Olympics, somebody gave somebody a pair of skis when they needed it or something. So I know somebody gave Michaela Schifrin some skis, but you don't usually see that in any other sport, I don't think, or not many, right?
No, I don't remember that. I don't remember much of any other teams helping out another team like they do in drag racing. I know NASCAR, they probably don't do that. IndyCar, they probably don't do that. But this is so family oriented that it's okay. Well, we lost. Well, if you need somebody, I'm gonna say so and so, go over there and help your team. I think like Clay Milliken, I think it was, or somebody said this weekend they needed a crew member, and Antron's team sent one guy over to his team.
That's right. I forgot about that. That did happen this weekend. I had forgotten who it was, but it was Antron's team going to help somebody. So, yeah. I think we have time for another question real quick.
Go ahead.
No, I think you were going to ask it, Anthony, but I'll ask it anyway. Just
go ahead.
Because I'm a blabbermouth. But you've gotten to live your dream. How do you express that to other people and encouraging them to live their dreams? Like some junior dragster driver, somebody like that, or somebody who comes up to you at the races and says, I want to do that. How do I start? What do you tell them? Rachel, what do you tell them?
I don't really know. I don't know. There have been a lot of younger kids who come up and they're just so amazed by the car, and it is something that they want to do. And I guess, I don't know, sometimes I let them like jump in and help pack the chutes with me to like get them a little bit of hands-on experience to maybe get them a little more excited about it. And I don't know, I guess just tell them to chase their dreams.
You're really trusting to let someone pack your chutes with you.
I still help. I don't let them do it on their own.
I hope not. Julie, what about you? Do you get people coming up to you and asking, how can I do this?
I mean, yes, me and Rachel, we've been teammates, so we do have people in our pits every now and then, especially if we see kids that are really excited about it. And if there's anything else that I can help them with, or whenever they ask me how do I start, I kind of just tell them parts of my story and how I started out in the junior dragster and just go your way up. Yeah, and if they want more in-depth information, I guess I'll give them that later. But I try to just keep them motivated and say that they can do it too by telling them how I did it.
We say, oh, do I have to move to Norway and then move back? Madison, you're young enough. You're kind of in the beginning of your career. I mean, do you feel comfortable, or you're certainly knowledgeable, but I mean, do you feel, is that weird to you? Not weird. I wouldn't use the word weird, but is it just different when someone more closer to your age comes and asks you that kind of stuff?
Yeah, I think it is weird because I don't really think about it just because racing has been such a big part of my life.
Mhm.
But I think one thing that's really helped me is I never really set goals on what I wanted to drive. I just knew that I did. And I think that's one way you can really get into drag racing is not like just wanting to be a professional driver. Of course, you can want that and get to that one day. But I think if you're one of those people that just wants to be out there to learn or to drive or to grow, I think that's where you'll be most successful.
And Sarah?
For me, it was kind of just anytime someone came up to me, was taking the time to, get on a knee and talk to them and look them in the eyes. And when I was bracket racing, if they came up to the car, we did like a local car show or brought it to a school, it was to put a kid in the car, because for me as a kid, all I wanted was for somebody to lift me up and put me in their race car because I'd never experienced it before. And then, just to tell them to kind of, follow their passion, follow their dream, to try it, as crazy as something might seem. For me, everybody thought I was kind of crazy for wanting to go drag racing because it was so out of my scope and like our norm. But to just try it and to tell your story to everybody, because you never know who's listening and who knows somebody that can kind of lead you in that direction.
Lots of hope out there. Anthony, go ahead.
Thank you, ladies, for joining us on the Capital Sports Report Live tonight on our special Ladies' Night feature. I would like to say that Rachel, thank you for your time. Jolie, thank you for your time. Madison, thank you for your time. And Sarah, thank you for your time tonight. This episode, outside of being on Facebook and YouTube right now, it would also be on Rumble and BitChute later, and it would also be downloadable on Anchor.fm on a podcast version in the coming days. The Capital Sports Report Live is back on Wednesday night with Elite Motorsports Pro Stock driver Troy Coughlin Jr., and we would hopefully see everyone on Wednesday night. Thank you again, ladies, for joining us today. Would you like
Thank
to
you.
Thank
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
That's our pleasure, actually, and happy anniversary to you, Anthony.
Yes,
Thank you.
congratulations.
Thank you.
We'll see you at the racetrack.
Bye.
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 Bye.